Alright, so if you haven't found out yet, I'm definitely a little retarded. As much as I am a genius, sometimes I fuck up. And so, we're going to go back and we're going to fix the math that I just went through. What did I get wrong that kind of fucked up the whole math? I read this 3.7 million shares as 3.7 billion. Part of that was probably because I was thinking 2022, and I know that there couldn't just be 3 million shares in the stock, because like back in July 2022 we had freaking we had 500 million shares. So my brain got kind of messed up. But what's happening here, and so now we're going to do the math. And what's happening here is if you take the 3.7 million and you times that by the 25 to 1 reverse split, and then times that by the 9 reverse split, you get 832 million shares. So here's what we know. September 30th, 2022, we had 832 million shares. Well, we know that they announced that we had 3.7 billion shares on May 24th, 2023, and that they dropped it to 150 million shares. So between September 30th, 2022 to May 24th, we know that there was 2 billion shares bought. So if you go back and you look at the volume in between those dates, you could easily calculate how much volume it takes for retail to be buying a certain percentage of the shares. So that will be something that maybe I look at in this video, maybe I don't, but definitely told you how to do it. So now we know that we go to 150 million shares, right? So what I'm about to prove to you is that retail has been buying the stock for the last 40 to 50 days, 60 days, nonstop. And this is the proof. Okay, so we understand this 3.7 million number because it actually represents 800 million shares. And it makes sense because we had 500 million shares July 2022. And so after 2 more months, we ended up buying another 300 million shares. So that's proof that we were buying, right? And then there's proof that we were buying because that 800 million shares grew into 3.7 million shares, and then they reverse split it to 150 million shares, right? Well, that 150 million shares, if we take that 150 million shares and we divide that by the 9 reverse split, or sorry, that's not the right way to do it. So we take that 150, well, we don't even need the 150 million. So what the 150 million is actually not important. So what's important is if we look at the record date of the reverse split of who had the vote in this last reverse split of the 9 to 1, it said that the record date was 650 million. So the 150 million reverse split, well, so the 500 million in July going to up it to 800 million in September, then going to 3.7 billion in May, then getting reverse split to 150 million is all proof that retail was buying, and that we owned the company. Then we get the record date for the new reverse split, and it says 650 million. So if we have 650 million at this time of the new vote, and we divide that by the 9 reverse split, we get 72 million. But the problem is that it says that we have 86 million, and that is at June 30th, 2023. Well, the record date was June 22nd. And so if you look at the difference of the 86 million and the 72 million, so we'll minus 86 million from this, we get 13 million shares. Except it wasn't 13 million shares because this was before the reverse split. We get 124 million shares that was purchased and added to the outstanding shares between June 22nd and June 30th. More evidence from all the evidence before that retail is always buying more than they're selling. Okay? So we have this $124 million. Just so you're aware, this stock was always above 10 cents a share. Meaning this $124 million represents, I can't remember the exact price. I mean, I guess we can check. So let's go check it real quick. So the exact price of June 22nd to, so June 21st to June, or sorry, that's July. June 22nd. We'll do June 23rd. So right here, ooh, it's at 19 cents to June 30th. So right here to, it looks like right here, or no, one above. So we traded about, what is that? That's 6.4 or 640 million, 1 billion, 40 million, 1.5 billion. So 1.8 billion, 1.85 billion. So if we did 1.85 billion in that time, and there's 124 million shares traded, we're doing about 6-7%. 6-7% of the volume is retail buying. That's awesome news. That's way higher than what I was estimating. And then also, if we assume an average price of, let's just say 14 cents, that's hold on, 0.14. That's $17 million that retail paid to MULN. Retail and or companies like hedge funds, people that read my change.org letter or whatever. I mean, obviously this was a week before my change.org article, but I'm just suggesting today buying power. But just in that week, there was $17 million from retail that went into MULN. Like that's a real thing, people. And so, again, further evidence that retail's always buying, right? And now, and so, let's do this real quick. So we're going to divide this by the 1.85 billion. Oops. And we get 6.7%. And we know that since June 30th, we've probably done, we'll be conservative and say 10 billion shares traded. And if we multiply that by the 0.067, that's 670 million shares. So if we know that we're at the 87 million shares, or 86 million shares, as of June 30th, and that's counting the reverse split. Hang on. And that's counting the reverse split, then there was, so that would be the 774 million, plus we assume that we bought another 700 million. So that would be roughly 1.6 billion. And I suppose if we take the 1.6 billion plus the 3.7 billion that we knew we had before the first outstanding share, or damn. So if we take the number that we should have right now, just based off that math, it shows that they're 300 million shares over the limit. I've never done math that I believed in where it looked like and it felt like they're actually over the limit. But all the math I did right now, like the biggest estimation of the math I did right now, was assuming that because between June 22nd and June 30th, we bought $17 million worth of shares, which was 126 million shares at 6.7% of the volume that was traded in that time. If that assumption right there held true for the last 40, 50 days, then it would suggest that they already have run out of shares and that they are using fake shares. But my entire two-year experience on YouTube has been, like, ever since GameStop, they've all been trying to pump the narrative that there's fake shares, stay out of the market because they can rig it whenever they want. And I've been trying to explain how that's not true, and it's all about dilution. And as long as we fight the war and we fight it smart and we fight to the end, we always end up winning. Like, this is the first time ever I've done any type of math that could suggest that they are using fake shares for the first time ever. That's crazy. And, like, what's hopefully true is that we've only been buying 5% of shares of the volume the last 40 days, and that they still have 100 million shares, and that in the next 3 days we're going to buy those 100 million shares, and that we're going to force a squeeze that's never been seen before, because this is going to be the first squeeze that happens when they literally have no dilution left. And even by raising the price, doesn't raise their dilution power because they have so little shares left. We are in a beautiful spot, people. The math is beautiful.